Good evening. How's everyone doing?
Doing fine. Spent my whole day on Abra meeting. It was interesting.
You were on an ABRA meeting?
Online watching the meeting.
Oh, okay.
A friend of mine, who I don't think you know, but may, was just put on the board as a member of the board. So
Mm,
we got sworn in today, and I figured I'd listen to see what was going on in the meetings.
fair.
Boy, I'll tell you, it was boring.
Well, to be fair, a lot of people would find ZED meetings boring, but here we are.
Well, that's true. That's true.
Though you're right, ABRA ones are a little bit more boring.
It just went on and on and on. I mean, a lot of it made sense to me. It wasn't stuff that I didn't understand, but it was just like such repetitiveness. And the guy who's the chair of the commission or committee or whatever you want to call it, the board, I guess, he's a stickler on, you know, and I'm sure you attended meetings, so you know what I'm talking about. But he just everything is punctual and everything is to the T, and it, I just had to sit and laugh at times because some of the stuff that was going on was just so repetitive. It wasn't even funny.
Yeah. Uh, Dimitri, I'm realizing I don't remember who all the committee members are. So I'm just gonna make you co-host so you
Okay.
can. I feel like I have everyone promoted.
Let's see. Yeah, we're just missing Alex Baca and Brad Grant. So, but I think we have a quorum either way.
And I believe Alex is in Rome, so they
Oh,
won't be here. And I don't know about Brad, but
okay. Brad's probably on summer vacay, so maybe he won't be here as well.
I'm
Um,
just end
we
up
can,
listening in because I have to drop some newsletters off around the neighborhood, like to my neighbor, Mr. Nelson. So, because I'm
okay.
running out of time. So,
All right. So I'm gonna do the
yeah,
roll call and then we can kind of take it from there. Roll call. Mr. Norman,
Yes.
Mr. Nelson.
Here,
I'm here, Mitri, and Commissioner Jacobson is
here.
great. All right, having a quorum. Verification of the notice. This meeting was noticed to the community via listserv, social media, website, and e-calendar. Um, uh, Unanimous. I'm going to move for unanimous consent for approval of the agenda. Any dissent or disapproval? All right, hearing none, seeing none. The agenda is so approved. Moving through the consent agenda, I think we've already actually approved. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong thing here. Sorry. Give me 1 second. Um, got my wrong thing up. Yeah, we've already approved that, so I'm looking at my old agenda. Apologies. Okay. All right. Um, any community announcements or presentations? Mr. Jacobson, Commissioner.
Thank you, Dimitri. I guess this is more for Tony and Pat, but you might have seen the email that Dimitri will no longer be chairing this committee after this meeting. So we're going to be recruiting a new chair. If either of you are interested, I think you've both been on the ZD committee for quite some time, so I feel like it's fair game if you want it, and if you don't, that is totally fine too. But wanted to at least mention it, and we'll do a broader advertisement for more members for the committee as well in the ANC newsletter.
What about you, Patrick?
Oh, no, no, I think I'm gonna have to step aside on that one. I
Done his
got
term.
my feet in enough things right now that I'm
Yeah,
still working with the ANC 1B's committee, so.
And sorry,
yeah.
that wasn't to bully one of you into taking it. I just wanted to mention it in case you're like very interested.
I'm too overcrowded and over too many committees now
Fair.
with other corporations and organizations.
Well, we do appreciate your service, so I just wanted to mention it in case you were interested.
Great. Well, thank you for that, Commissioner Jacobson. Um, any other, and I don't see any hands up for any of the attendees either, so no other community announcements.
I just have a general question before you start, Dimitri. I did read the email. Would you be embarrassed if I asked, where are you moving to? Are you moving out of the state or just a different part of the
No, I'm actually moving to Union Market, so I've
Mm.
moved things over there. But I've been in Shaw for so long that I felt like I needed a change of scenery, a new environment, so Union Market, that's what I've decided. So
So are you renting?
I am still renting because, interest rates have not gone down and they don't seem to be going down anytime soon. But yeah, so
Maybe you could lobby and get the price of the market to come down so that you could afford a house. I mean,
yeah, I don't know about if I can afford a house over here, but even like, in 1E, like 1E, like it's still very tough to find something that is affordable on a
That's in Ward 5, right? Now,
I think so. I don't
yeah,
know fully. I'm
Ward
not
5.
integrated yet, so I don't
I'm
know. I'm still,
busy working on organizations over there, Ward 5.
yeah. I mean, they're doing stuff out this way. So,
Councilmember Zachary Parker, he's the
I think
councilman for
so.
Ward
yes, he
5.
is.
Yeah,
He
Yeah,
is.
we're
yeah.
working on the Macmillan Scholarship Project.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Well, thank you all. But it's been a pleasure serving with you all on this. So, I hope I know you'll find a new chair, and I was reluctant to take this role over because I knew I was planning on moving. So, but I think it's been an eventful little bit here, and we got two good pieces of new business to discuss. One being a presentation on the McMillan Reservoir site and PUD modification. I see one hand up. I thought there were a couple other folks here to speak on that.
Oh,
Um,
Dimitri, I was just gonna say, I know that Jean raised her hand during the community announcements portion, and we didn't get
oh,
to her. So I don't know if you want to recognize her.
oh, I can. I'm sorry. Oh, let's allow to talk. That does do it. All right, sorry. We'll come back to the actual presentation here in just a second.
Hi,
Jean?
I don't know if this is a community announcement or new business, but want to make everyone aware that the performance parking zone that we've had in our area for a while, Breanne introduced an amendment to her legislation about the PPZ yesterday with Charles Allen to divert the money for 26 and 27 to DDOT for their curbside management cameras. And I know you all are a part of this community and the bid and everything, so I wanted to make sure ANC 1E was aware. Josh, I think Matt Fay will be emailing you with details about what's going on, but this is diverting money from people that actually coming to businesses on our corridor because the residents are supposed to be exempt. And then the money's going to be diverted to the rest of the city, which is what happened to the 25 fiscal year money. It went to the general fund. So people are upset. And I want you all to be aware of it, since this is the Econ Committee especially.
I'm
And
glad you're bringing that up, Gene, because that was an issue that has been discussed. I've had a number of discussions with Matt Fay about this, but it's been an ongoing issue in 1B since you know full well that's where the majority of it is. That they kept saying they want to give reports as to how much money they were generating and what they were doing with it. And
well, they reported to ANC 1B, and when they did, they didn't have the numbers, but I've heard, and this is, secondhand, I haven't seen it in black and white, that it was 1.4 million. And it's diverting money away from our corridor that, desperately needs it. We're losing businesses. We're trying to start a bid. That effort is struggling, and I just want you all to be aware of what's going on.
and what do you know off the top of your head what they're gonna why they're giving it to DDOT and what DDOT is supposed to be doing with it?
The DDOT money is supposed to go to their curbside camera management program, where they will have cameras in the loading zone so they can charge, God forbid we don't charge for every minute of our curbside. So that's my understanding, and I can't, in a public forum, tell you what I think happened behind doors. If you can appreciate and understand that.
No,
She's still trying to get her M&A legislation, and I understand part of it is in Alan's committee, and he oversees the transportation committee. This was the NADO, hang on a minute, I'm sorry. Let me tell you what the legislation is if you want to know. It was I'm sorry. It's it's off the top of my head. It's the NADO dash Allen number 1 amendment to, and I don't know, can't remember the number, to her legislation that created the PPZ. And they voted on it yesterday. And there'll be a second reading on the 23rd.
Okay. Well,
So reach out to Matt Fay. He really,
Mm.
he's the one that told me what was going on, and everybody's trying to find out more. The nightlife council has gotten involved. I think the Westminster
Yeah, I was
Association.
gonna say that Westminster probably is. I'll have a conversation with Frank.
Yeah.
See what-
So I just, people should be aware that it's just given where we are, and we get no attention except for the task force, which just contains the problem and doesn't solve it. I think it's sort of an outrage. That's me.
Yeah, well, I'll agree with you in that sense. And from my understanding, this camera thing is a whole new thing. I was not even aware of that. That's the first I'm hearing of that they're putting that in place. So yeah, I'll talk to Frank and I'll talk to Matt and see what if anything we can muster to counteract some of that, because that's ridiculous. That all of that hassle that was put in place was to generate money for a specific reason. And once again, our fearless leader is an idiot. Thank God.
No comment.
No comment, but I can say it because I don't care what people think.
What leader is that?
Brienne.
Oh,
She's gone, so we don't have to worry about it, but she's getting her last digs in, so I'll get off my soapbox. But thanks for
Okay,
bringing
that's all
that
I
to
got.
my attention, Gene. That's good to know. It's important.
It's important information.
Exactly.
Community should know.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Gene. Alrighty. On to the presentation. Can folks raise their hand? I'm about to talk. And then Shane, do you have any other folks with you today?
Hi, good evening. Yes, we should have Tom Finan, Sam Matrani, and maybe David Abitable. I've asked them to raise their hand as well.
Oh, and Dmitri, we usually just promote them to panelists so they can share their screen.
Okay.
I can
What
help.
does that mean? Should I not promote all these people?
Oh, I think you just allowed them to talk.
Yes, I think that's what I was doing.
But if you promote them, then they can actually share their screen.
Okay, great. Whoever is got the presentation, you should have the ability to share your screen.
There we go. That's me. I'll go ahead and share my screen.
Okay.
Huh? Okay. Everybody can see my screen?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Could make it bigger if you want.
I have it maximized here. Let me see if I can zoom in. Is it too small on your end?
It's okay for me personally, but
Okay. I'll keep it right where it is, and if anything's too small or anything like that, happy to zoom in and go back to anything like that. But wanted to just start off by saying thank you to the committee. Good evening, and we really appreciate the time and the opportunity to give this initial presentation for a modification to a couple of the parcels on the former McMillan site. Now referred to as the Reservoir District. And so with me, my name is Shane Detman. I'm a land use planner with the law firm Goulston and Storrs. We are assisting the Trammell Crow Company, who currently own the two parcels that we'll be talking about this evening. With me is Tom Finan, Managing Director with the Trammell Crow Company, as well as Sam Matrani, a vice president with Trammell Crow as well, and also have my colleague David Abitable, who's a partner attorney with Goulston and Storrs. Tom, did you want to kind of give any introductory remarks before I jump in, or should I just jump in?
Yeah, I think jumping in, but definitely take a moment to thank you guys for your time and consideration of what we're about to walk through. It's much appreciated by my organization, and hopefully we'll get through this without too many bumps in the road.
Right. Well, if it's okay with the committee, I'll just move forward with the slide deck that we have, and this is just kind of laying out kind of some of the topics that we want to talk about this evening. We'll give some overall status on the PUD site and its redevelopment. If you are go around the site anytime recently, you'll see that there's lots of activity going on the site, and we hope to sort of join that activity sometime soon. We'll give some background on these two parcels that we'll be talking about this evening, parcels 1 and 3. Talk about some of the challenges that Trammell Crow has experienced since the PUD was approved, going all the way back to 2014. And then we'll talk about moving forward, kind of the PUD modifications that we would be looking to eventually submit to the Zoning Commission for approval. This was just sort of kind of level set and kind of get everyone's heads around the status of the PUD. Again, if you've ever been around the site within the last whatever year or so, you know that there's been a lot of activity with the first completion of the community center on parcel 6 down on the south end of the site. The community center, the large park, the pool, the restoration of the above ground historic structures in the South Service Court, which is adjacent to the park, and then up on the north side of the site, which is called North Service Court. All of the above ground historic structures have been renovated and restored, and they're there for the public to finally walk around and experience and appreciate. You know that EYA, the developer of the townhomes on Parcel 5, has been under construction for quite some time. Upon completion, that'll be 146 townhomes, and to date, we understand that 124 of those townhomes have been sold. And then they're looking to kind of tie things up on Parcel 5 and wrap up completion of all the townhomes in the fourth quarter of 2027. You may remember that in December of last year, Jair Lynch, the owner of the 2 multifamily parcels on the site, which is Parcel 2 here adjacent to First Street, and then Parcel 4 adjacent to North Capitol Street, both multifamily buildings. Parcel 4 is the one that'll have the new Sprouts grocery store, and Parcel 4 building is the one that's currently undergoing permit review. You may recall that in December 2025, Jair Lynch completed a PUD modification process and got that approved, and they're moving forward again on Parcel 4. And then finally, we have at the north end of the site, Parcel 1, which is adjacent to the historic and preserved Cell 14. Parcel 1 is approved for approximately 875 square feet of development, 860,000 square feet of healthcare use, as well as 15,000 square feet of retail. That's on Parcel 1. And then on Parcel 3, that's approved for approximately 173,000 square feet of density, of which 3,000 square feet would be devoted to retail use. And so that's kind of like paints the picture of kind of what the current status of the PUD is as we sit here today. And with that background, I'll hand it off to Tom to give a little bit about, the background and what Trammell Crow has been endeavoring to do since the PUD was approved. Tom, you're on mute.
Some people would think that was a gift. Shane, why don't we go to the next slide? This slide is, you can read through the history, but essentially, we've been at this for over a dozen years, and somewhere a little bit after the middle of those dozen years, we had this COVID pandemic come up and kind of change our world. Can we flip one? There we go. So I won't bore you by reading all of the bullets to us, but we find ourselves in a position where coming out of the pandemic, we see a world that has got significant structural changes to everything from how and where people live to work and shop, where they educate, how they play, how they entertain themselves, and quite frankly, how they seek medical help. And that is all impacted what we're looking to do. We have been marketing the project for lease, and very few nibbles on the line. And to the extent we do get some, there is generally a pause if there is any question as to whether or not the entitlements that are in place would support what those folks want to do. And given the state of the DC real estate market, they have options, and they generally vaporize on us. What's really caused issues with what we're looking to do is, again, attributable to that pandemic. You look at that second bullet, we've seen construction costs increase by over 50% since the end of the pandemic. That's halfway to doubling. The interest rates available for the capital to build something like this, those have more than doubled since we had our approvals. And we sit in a market where the commercial real estate office market by itself has roughly 25% vacancy. And unfortunately, that 25% vacancy isn't several select full buildings that are just obsolete and old. That permeates through all of the inventory. So there's a lot of competition out there for any kind of office type tenant, even healthcare office tenant included. And then during that, coming out of the pandemic as well, we've seen a major change in the healthcare industry. We have seen most operators go from large scale acute care hospitals where everybody has to come to them to smaller format neighborhood hospitals, urgent care centers, and the like, where the services are provided closer to where the people live. And we're doing some work for a few systems in that regard, including Christiana Care, with some properties up in Pennsylvania and Delaware. So we're participating there, but the idea of this old mega scale medical campus has certainly become obsolete in our opinion. And unfortunately, that's what we are singularly approved for today. On parcel one, 875,000 feet of medical office space. And then parcel one, another 173,000. So we are looking for flexibility that will allow us to do what we do best, and that is to be a market responsive, market driven developer, bringing to communities what is being demanded at the time versus what we think the community should be demanding. I think I would want to take a second to indicate everything that we promised to do to this point in the PUD and with the development agreements with the city has been done. We've got a significant number of dollars in this project, mid tens of millions, and we have nowhere to go with it at this point. So we are keenly focused on finding a way to get some flexibility in both the sizes and the uses for the property. And it's interesting because I've been doing this 30 some odd years, and most times I go in front of bodies like yourself or municipality, board of supervisors, planning commissions, zoning boards, whatever it might be. And we're usually looking for a way to make them bigger and to give less in proffers and to make, increase the density and, really pack stuff in. And this is the complete opposite. This is almost like it's not like, it is us coming and saying, we want to voluntarily downzone the property so that something can happen. And what I've noticed to date is, what's the comparative bar? If the comparative bar is what was approved, we're not going to get anywhere. I think the comparative bar should be, if we can't get this flexibility, what you see there on parcel 1 and 3 will be what is there for the very long term. We need to find some way to work our way out of this changed market in a manner that allows us to develop something, contribute something to the community, even though it may be smaller and it may be a different use. Now, our druthers would still be to have some medical operator come in and say, I'll take it all. And of course, we would do that, but that would be, they're few and far between those opportunities. And if we sat around waiting for those, we're going to tap out, run out of time, run out of money. So we are looking for, again, the ability to cast a wider net to try to find something that has a home that makes sense for this part of Reservoir District. So I think that's that on that slide there, Shane.
But before we jump, Tony, you have your hand up.
I would wanted to you finished the entire presentation, or
No, I think we have other slides.
I will wait. I wait.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Shane, I'll pop it back to you for the goals of the PUD model.
Okay, great. Yeah, great. Thanks, Tom. As Tom mentioned already, in terms of kind of like what's changing and what's not changing, and one thing that he mentioned was that all of the benefits and amenities that are currently required under the approved PUD are not changing. But just to summarize kind of what's changing and what wouldn't be on this slide, again, as Tom mentioned, what we're looking for ultimately is flexibility for an expanded range of permitted uses. Right now, it's healthcare facility, and that's it. And even if a residential developer approached Trammell Crow, or if Trammell Crow wanted to build a residential building, the question of whether or not we could do that, the answer is we don't know. And it would require significant investment in time and resources and process through the zoning commission in order to find out the answer to that question. And we're trying to sort of get a little bit of flexibility so that we could proceed with some discussions with a reasonable degree of confidence that we could have a wider range of uses. And so we'd be looking for opening up the range of uses on the site. And as Tom mentioned, we'd be looking to reduce the height and density. So right now, the building on parcel 1 is approved for 113 feet. Again, it's about 875,000 square feet of density. The building on parcel 3 is approved for a maximum height of 110 feet. And we would not be looking to increase the height or density of either of those buildings. We were looking for the flexibility in order to be able to reduce the height and density. And I think it's really important to mention also is that what we're talking about here applies to the PUD approval from the Zoning Commission. It does not do anything to modify, change, alter the review process that's still required for this site through the HPRB. Right, so any changes that might be done to the approved designs would still be subject to HPRB review, that separate process. In terms of what's changing, the meetings we've had so far with the McMillan Advisory Group and the Bloomingdale Civic Association and individuals from those respective organizations, they said, make sure it's clear when you go to the community that you're not doing anything to monkey with the grocery store on parcel 4, and we're not. As I mentioned, that's on an entirely separate parcel, owned and will be developed by Gyro Lynch Real Estate partners. And that project is undergoing permit review right now and nearing the end of the permit review process. And so hopefully we see some movement on parcel 4. We'll be maintaining the commitments to ground floor retail. During the recent Gyro Lynch PUD modification, the comments that a large majority of the comments that came from the community had to do about wanting to maintain as much of the ground floor retail as much as possible. And so we heard that loud and clear. And then on both parcels 1 and 3, the minimum commitments that are required under the PUD will be maintained. And those are minimums. It could be more, but we're not going to seek to reduce those. We'll also see in another slide that key urban design and site planning features that were really important to the community, to the HPRB, to the Zoning Commission, in terms of how it shaped the development of the site, and specifically parcel 1, those would all be maintained. So the amount of open space that's provided on parcel 1 would be maintained. The view corridors through the site and the setbacks from North Capitol and First Street, all, regardless of what happens to the shape and form and architecture of these buildings, these really important key urban design site planning features would be maintained. And then in terms of public benefits and amenities, there are some pretty substantial monetary contributions that are required under the approved PUD that are specifically tied to parcels 1 and 3, and specifically as they relate to workforce development. And all of those benefits would be maintained. I mentioned some of those guidelines that would be kind of still continue to inform whatever the use and the architecture of the buildings is. And so again, no increases in height and density. The retail minimums would be maintained. We would maintain open space. And how we do that, and as we were talking to the Office of Planning over the course of many months, we came to how do we really lock in the amount of open space that's provided on the site. That was really important. It's an important public benefit to the community, not just for the park on the south, but across the entire site. But the way that we lock in the amount of open space that's provided through this PUD modification is we lock in the lot occupancy. So for example, on parcel 1, on the north side of the site, as approved, the lot occupancy for the buildings is limited to 55%. So, and so that includes the historic cell 14 on North Capitol Street, the Healing Gardens along Michigan Avenue, the setbacks on First Street. We would lock in 55% lot occupancy. Now, as the buildings sort of move around in response to whatever the user ends up being, setting aside cell 14 because that's historic, but the open space might take a different form. It might be configured a little bit differently. But again, we would still have 45% of all of parcel 1 devoted to open space. The views, again, through the middle of the site, setbacks from North Capitol Street and First Street, those are all being maintained, as would access to the north part of the site through parcel 1. So let me just quickly, I shared these slides with the committee. There's a lot here. I won't go through it in detail, but let me just summarize kind of some of the ideas that we have around what use modifications we would be seeking and then what design modification we'd be seeking. And so here, the next couple of slides show the column for what's currently approved and what would be included in our proposed PUD modification that we would file with the zoning commission. So again, we're currently healthcare facility. That's the only use that's permitted on both of these parcels. The modification would look to retain healthcare uses, but also kind of put a little bit more sort of definition around what that means. Healthcare use is not defined in the zoning regulations. And so, what does that mean? And we would through the modification, we would kind of put a definition around what healthcare use is. Hospital, medical office building, of course, medical related education or lodging that might fall within healthcare uses. If healthcare use ends up not being the only use on these parcels, maybe it's only a portion of the parcel, we might, and if healthcare use is not the anchor, we might look to pivot to a different non-residential anchor. That might be office, if a market happens to materialize, might be lodging or education or entertainment use. And we've heard a couple comments from the community so far on entertainment use, but more about specific uses that fall within the entertainment category. And then that's a discussion that that's a discussion that we will have as we move forward in terms of, are there specific uses within these broader use categories that the community really wants or really doesn't want? And we would make commitments to not pursue certain uses. Of course, residential, there's still, a strong demand for additional housing supply in the district. And, so perhaps parcel 1 or parcel 3 becomes a residential use. And if that's the case, then any sort of residential density that's constructed on these two parcels would have a commensurate amount of affordable housing. We expect the district in the Office of Planning to say that's 25% or 20%, which is consistent with the land disposition agreement in place with the district. In terms of square footage, mentioned no increases in square footage overall, and we would be maintaining the retail minimums. And then for ground floor use, again, there you have maintaining the retail minimums. I just have 2 more slides, and then we'll turn it over for discussion. On the design modifications, of course, we have an approved plan. And as Tom mentioned, if a user materializes and said, we want the whole thing, they would certainly entertain that and move forward with that. But if that doesn't happen, we would be looking to modify the plans, perhaps a different form or a different architecture. And in that scenario, there might be a process in the PUD order that says the zoning administrator, when they receive a permit application, they would review the permit plans against those design guidelines that I just summarized. And then what it would also say is there needs to be a referral to the zoning commission. That's a mechanism that currently exists in the zoning regulations. So we'd be using a kind of a process that kind of exists in the regulations now. But essentially, there'd be a referral to the zoning commission for a 45-day review. And at that point, the zoning commission can say, you know what? We disagree. This is not consistent with the design guides. We think that there's further review that's necessary here. And it would have to move forward through a modification process with the commission, whether that's a modification without hearing or with hearing, kind of TBD on that. It would depend upon the extent of the deviation that they thought existed. And in terms of building height, it would be 113 feet if it was healthcare. Any other use would be 110 feet. The 113 feet was achieved because of the special requirements that were for healthcare use during the original PUD. Lot occupancy is locked in. And then, of course, we'd be looking for flexibility to adjust the parking and loading depending upon what program kind of materializes for each of these sites. And so in terms of timeline, as you know, or as you may know, we issued the notice of intent, which is a requirement under the zoning regulations that says, and that's a document that summarizes the modifications, and it's sent out to all property owners within 200 feet of the site, as well as the ANCs. And so that was sent out this month. And what that is that it gives the community notice, a minimum of 45-day notice that a modification application is coming. And so we are not able to submit anything to the zoning commission until that 45-day period ends. And that ends somewhere in mid-July. We're presenting to you all. We'll be presenting to ANC 5E next week. And then around the July-August time period, we might look, assuming we're ready, we would submit the PUD modification to the zoning commission, and that starts the formal process. During the months of July and August, we would have meetings with agencies and ANCs and continue to meet with the community, not part of our formal engagement process because we know that a lot of people leave town. So in terms of the amount, the meetings that we have to have as part of the formal process, we would not be counting any meetings in July or August, but that's just to say that we want to make ourselves available at any time to any organization or individual. And so during the months of August and July, happy to meet, answer any questions, address any comments. If the timeline kind of proceeds as it's prescribed in the zoning regulations, we might see the zoning commission have a set down meeting sometime in August or October. And what that is it's not a hearing. There's no testimony. There's no presentations. What that meeting is the zoning commission convening and making a decision whether or not it thinks the record is complete in order to schedule the application for a hearing. Assuming they do decide that it's ready to go, we might see a zoning commission public hearing sometime in December, given the notice periods that are required, and then also depending upon our ability to effectively engage and successfully engage with the DC agencies and the ANCs, including you all. So that's the last slide I have. I hope that gives kind of a decent summary of the modification as well as our timeline. And it looks like, Tom, you wanted to kind of wrap up with something.
Yeah, I just wanted to amplify two things. When we went through the chart and we talked about parking, and I think, Shane, you said we'd like to reduce the parking. And clearly what we're saying there is reduce it to a point that serves what we're building there, but in no case less than what the zoning regulations would require. So it would be a proportionate reduction in the parking. And then one other point is we talk about opening up the potential for residential use based on some of these conversations we've had to date and our own evaluation of the site. We have already excluded the notion that we would build townhomes there. That's all I had.
Thanks, Tom. So Dmitri, that's all we have.
Okay.
Happy to answer any questions.
Tony, go ahead. And I think I have one question.
Thank you. I'm Tony Norman. I'm also on the part of the Community Advisory Committee on MAG. I saw your presentation several times. I'm very pleased with the densities, the reduce. I've been working for the last 20 years on this project. I was chairman of the MAG a few years ago. So we've been working on that, and I'm pleased the reduction of the density and the project. And also I'm encouraged by the possibility of affordable housing. So, and you're reaching out to entire community, not just in Ward 5, but Ward 1. I'm happy to see the presentation today. So I'm very, I want to commend Trumor Crow on the efforts. So I'm very pleased at the direction we're going to. So I'm very, very pleased with it. And one other thing, you mentioned the a possibility of affordable housing, or what's your project?
I think that was the Jair Lynch one that we approved.
I think that was the possibility of Trumor Crow.
Oh, becoming affordable housing? Oh.
Possibility.
We would commit to the 20% affordable housing.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Is that IZ or is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but I'm encouraged, very encouraged with the project and your outreach effort. I also I want to mention the community benefits. We have a scholarship program I'm working with Community Development Workforce and Community Macmillan project. We have scholarships offered at least for $5,000 per person, and we're working with along with the Macmillan plan and the MAG. So we're offering scholarships in Ward 1 and Ward 5. Not just academic scholarship, but also workforce and plumbing and electrical. So I'm very pleased with the projects. So and the effort. But I wanted to make that announcement. The scholarship funds. But thank you. I'm very encouraged.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your comments, Tony. And then I just wanted to follow up on your last point. And I don't have the PUD order in front of me, but the money that you're currently working with on the scholarship program and that you discussed at the last MAG meeting, that money flowed from the construction on Parcel 5 for the townhomes. That was EYA's portion of that particular contribution. And just I can't recall the amount off the top of my head, but with Parcel 1, which is what we're talking about now, another significant contribution would flow once the Parcel 1 development gets completed. That would flow into this scholarship program to be devoted to additional workforce development training. And so again, thank you for your comments, and hopefully we can get those additional contributions headed your way. Was there a need to, Dmitri, did you have a question about IZ?
No, I was just wondering if that was where the 20% piece was coming from. Yeah. Okay. That was it.
Yeah, because it's a PUD. To the extent that there's residential constructed on either of these parcels, 20% of that residential would be set aside as affordable housing, and they would be regulated through the IZ program.
Got it. Thank you. I also wanted to ask more of a practical question about what you're looking from this committee. It sounds like this is more of a discuss and feel out the community meeting, and you're not really looking at it for anything specific from us at this point. And then you would likely come back to the committee with an actual request of like approval sometime in August would be my guess. And then that would go before the ANC for their full resolution.
That's right.
Does that sound right? Okay.
That's right. Yeah. Now that the notice of intent has been issued and it's out there, the regulations require us to make efforts to attend ANC meetings to inform the community of the upcoming application. So that's what we're doing here. That's what we'll do next week with ANC 5E. And then once the application is submitted, probably more like in the maybe September, October time period, we would be reaching back out to you formally. Of course, we would have informal discussions, but we would be reaching out to you in kind of the September, October period in order to schedule another presentation to start talking about ANC action on the actual application.
Okay. Sounds like a plan. Mr. Nelson?
So I just have a couple of comments, not necessarily questions, but one, aside from Tony, who's worked on this a little bit longer than I have, this has been a long, drawn out, ridiculous process, to be honest with you, in my opinion. I am just a little concerned, and I know that you're not going to give an answer to this. I'm not asking for an answer, but I'm a little concerned that it's taking as long as it has for you to come to the conclusion that you can't do what you originally put in the PUD, which was done back in 2014. Time has flown by, and it's just has, in my opinion, taken way too long for you guys to do anything here. And I understand the workings of all of the shit that was going on with this, so I'll give you some leeway on it, but I just think it's ridiculous that we've wasted all this time and now we're back to, oh, we need to change it because it doesn't work anymore. I'm also a little concerned that you're not, at least in my opinion, not giving us a real concrete answer to what you're proposing here. You're asking to change the PUD, but I don't really see a concrete, this is what we're going to do, this is what we want to, you want to have a whole lot of flexibility to do whatever you want to do, but you're not saying what are the options to do it. And then my final comment, and I'll get off my soapbox, is that I think this timeline is really, really aggressive. I'll be really surprised if you are going to get a public hearing in December of 2026. So that means it's going to drag out even longer. And like I said, I'm not asking for answers to questions. I'm just voicing my opinion on here that, yes, I'm glad that this is finally coming out of the ground. And you know, it's been a lot of work. The last PUD changed the site, the other two parcels. But I just, you know, in my experience in dealing with PUDs, and I've done a number of them myself as chair of the 1B ANC when I was doing that, this has just been going on and on and on and on. And I don't see that even if you change the PUD that you're going to be able to move forward as you think you are here. So I'll stop at that.
I appreciate those comments and share your frustration with how long we've been at this. It's not been a joyride for us either. I would say, though, I think in our defense that we are trying very hard to stay inside the context of a PUD and moving forward, where we have other developers in the market who've just said, I'm going to abandon the PUD. Take my chances with zoning. And we're not looking to do that. So we're trying to play fair, play nice, and come to some solution that's going to provide something back to the community, something for us to do at this site. And, you know, hopefully the market embraces that. Still, you know, no guarantees. I mean, it's just such a different world right now.
And we had a lot of litigation over the last almost 20 or 30 years. I went through these litigations and I had to file lawsuits, several lawsuits. But ultimately, the end, it worked out generally. I'm pleased with the project. They compromised on a lot of things over the years, and the total project, I'm very pleased with the final product now. It's a work in progress. We're still working monthly on the Macmillan Committee and the MAG. So I'm overall optimistic, and we're in the positive direction. I would say that, yeah.
Well, Tony, I will defer to you since, like I said,
Yeah.
you've been working on this a whole lot more than I have. I know exactly what's been going on. But I just had to take the moment to voice my slight
And
frustration. So,
Patrick, you've been working with us also throughout that process, the last 20 years.
oh yeah, it's been a long time.
And we've been working on the Macmillan project for almost 30 years, actually.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah. But I think it's going in the right direction. We had to make they had to make a lot of compromise, the overall project. So it's in a positive direction.
Yeah.
Work in progress.
You know, speaking of works in progress, this might be a good point. Shane, would you mind bringing that first slide that I skipped over, but the one that had the kind of massing diagram on it? There you go. So when we come back to you, we we will have similar massing diagrams that will show what this looks like, the items in blue at a much smaller scale. We'll still maintain that North Service Court hard edge and what that might look like as office or medical office, what it may look like as residential, multifamily residential, and or a combination of residential and office or residential and potentially lodging. So we've got Shalom Baranis working on that as we speak. We have an economic impact study being done for the entirety of Reservoir District, as well as what happens to that based on these possible changes we're making. And the outcomes, the draft outcomes of those are quite positive. And we also will be conducting some traffic impact studies based on these different levels and uses so that we have all of the input before we inform a decision.
Shane, can I just ask a quick question? You probably are the right person to, and I should know the answer to this. Tony can probably tell me. What is this site zoned as? I know that the PUD is got multiple stuff in it, but is the overall site the same, or has it, when the PUD was drawn up, did that change sections of it? So like the
Yeah,
townhouse section, I assume is residential only.
no, so actually it started off with different zoning in the beginning of the PUD process, but ultimately the approved PUD rezones the entire site to what is now known as MU9.
Ah,
In the PUD order, it shows up as CR, which is the
old.
1958 regs. Yeah.
That's the old, right? Okay. So, so MU9 is 110 foot max.
No, so that's I'm sorry. PUD order says CR. That is now known as MU10, not MU9. Sorry, MU9. MU10
Okay,
under a PUD allows a maximum height of 110 feet.
okay,
Yeah.
got it, got
So
it.
MU10.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else from the committee? Any other folks? I have Carl's iPad. A quick question. I'm gonna allow you to talk, Carl.
Dimitri, this is the thing that you sent via email, right? The slide.
Yes, they provided the slide deck prior to the.
Can you hear? Excuse me. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Can you see me?
We cannot see you, but I think that's because we're still sharing our screen.
Oh,
The
okay.
ease of the growth.
Well,
Yeah, there we go.
okay. So my name's Carl Schonander, and thanks for doing the meeting. And actually, I was in email contact with Shane. I want to thank you for your email. I think this has been a clear presentation. I think two comments. One, you're very smart to make it very clear that this does not affect the grocery store, which is on a different parcel, but you're smart to make that very clear. My question for you, Shane, and your colleague is, in your own presentation, you say that the anchor healthcare tenant bailed on this, I think in December of 2022. So I guess I'm asking, were you using these 4 years, 3.5 years since then to find another anchor healthcare tenant along the lines as originally contemplated? And you've only just now sort of realized that that's not going to be possible? I'm just kind of wondering how you use these. It's been almost 4 years since the pandemic ended. That's the end of my question. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Anyone? Shane,
yeah,
Tom?
I can just add a little color, right? And between us, we had a anchor lease with Children's Hospital, And the pandemic was why they said, hold on, we don't know what we're doing. We're out.
Mhm.
They stepped out. We have been looking for tenants in that time period, and unfortunately, 4 years has gone like that relative to the dozen plus years we've been working on this thing. And with the hope, I guess, and this is true of the office development I do for the federal government around the country, is just we were hoping maybe there was a recovery from the changes that we believe were attributable to the pandemic, but we have found, like all of our competitors and colleagues, that these changes are permanent and structural. This is no longer a cyclical. It used to always be, hey, the cycle will turn, we'll hit the cycle again. It's a cyclical business. That has structurally been changed by what we've endured in the early 2020s. And we are, again, we've fulfilled all our obligations monetarily and physically on the site during that period of time, during the entire 12 years, and just digging ourselves a bigger and bigger hole. But we take that obligation seriously, and we've been trying to find the answer since. And this is our solution or potential solution to what we need to do. Otherwise, we can't do anything here.
And if I could just add to that, what Tom just said, it took us a while to get to this solution as we were meeting with the Office of Planning and other district agencies. If you're familiar with other really large scale, multi-building, multi-phase plan unit developments in the city, the only one that's been approved and then bam, fully built is the Wharf. Others, such as Berry Farm was approved, was appealed, was vacated. They discarded that PUD and went forward with drafting a new zone in order to move forward with matter of right development. The Bridge District over near Poplar Point was the same thing. PUD, multi-building PUD, appealed. They scrapped it, went forward and developed a custom zone to allow the developer to move forward with matter of right. And in our discussions with the city, we said, hey, this is a large scale, multi-building, multi-phased PUD. What about eliminating the PUD and doing this custom zone? And during those discussions, though, we decided, and we all came to the realization that for McMillan, that is not the right approach. Given the history, given the community involvement, given the benefits that were involved. And so it took us a while to figure out what was the right approach to craft the right amount of flexibility at the same time maintaining the PUD and the process of the PUD to allow the community to participate in this process. And so, that, I think I just looked at my notes, that's taken, over a year to really have those discussions with the city and get comfortable with the approach before we could come out and start engaging with the community.
And is there a possibility, and I say possibility, that based on what you just said, based on my experience and what has been happening recently with PDs and the fact that they're just falling by the wayside because they become an albatross on developers' backs. What do you think, if, based on what you just said, that this does happen and it goes through and then you're still stuck in the water? Is there a potential, and I may be stepping on somebody's back here, so to speak, but is there a potential that you might go down that road and say, screw it, we can't do the PUD stuff anymore, we're going to back out of that and move on to something else?
I can't predict the future, of course. I don't think for McMillan, sitting here right now, I would say that I don't see that happening. And here's why. We think that the flexibility has been crafted to be sort of broad enough flexibility, but still having some guardrails around it to provide a little bit of certainty. that we think it gives the flexibility that's necessary for Trammell to move forward with something successful on on these two parcels. However, I think two main reasons why I don't see that happening. And again, I'm not looking into a crystal ball. One is that it was very clear from the district agencies we were talking to, Office of Planning, DEMPED, that disposing of the PUD was a no-go. But secondly, unlike those two examples that I provided, Berry Farm and the Bridge District, those two PUDs were fully disposed of. Here we have a PUD that is, well underway, more than 50% under construction, lots of it completed, portions that are ready to get going on parcel 4 of the grocery store. And so to pull parcels 1 and 3 out of the PUD would require us to figure out how does that affect the balancing of the rest of the PUD that stays in place. And it's just so tangled and complex with the monetary contributions that are tied to a parcel but triggered by another parcel. It's just so very complex that I think this is the process that we move forward with.
Okay, so then I'm just thinking off the top of my head here, just questions. What is the possibility of parcel 3 remaining within the PUD, since it's more manageable to put into, say, residential use versus hospital or medical, whatever, and parcel 1, which is the big parcel, saying that we're stuck, we can't move forward here at all, and it's not applicable to financial numbers, construction costs, all of those things, to do anything with it that is feasible within the original PUD. And I say that I'm just asking a question. I'm not trying to be a pain in the butt here. I'm just asking that because this is kind of, in a way, similar to what happened with the Park Morton site. That was a multi-faceted site, was not even on the same location. It was 2 separate sites that were combined to create this PUD that they did. And then it went into the same kind of thing that Tony was talking about with this, where there was a lawsuit and there was a settlement, and then the PUD was disbanded and renegotiated, and now we're back to DEMPED saying that the final site, they're not going to do what they say they're going to do. They're going to do something else because they don't have the money to do it, because it's now been turned over to DEMPED. So what kind of thought in your head do you have of that type of scenario with parcel 1?
Let me see if I understand the question you were mentioning. So parcel 3, this current PUD modification moves forward, and based on the modified PUD, something happens on parcel 3. Whether you mentioned residential, maybe that happens, and then down the line, there still isn't anything going on parcel 1, and then what happens at that point? Is that your question?
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm saying. I'm just looking at this as a big picture item.
Yeah.
I understand that there's a lot of moving parts here with the PUD and what was put in the benefits plan and who's paying what and all that kind of stuff. I understand that because I was part of that. I'm just trying to understand the logistics of, A, you're asking to change the PUD to be able to move forward with the project, and what guarantee do we have that if the PUD is modified, and like I said, I'm still not getting from this presentation exactly what you're doing with the changing of the PUD. That site is huge. So if that site doesn't move forward and you had another hiccup, but parcel 3, which is a smaller one, is able to be developed under the new PUD change, does that leave the possibility that we have to go back again and readjust the PUD again? to do something different? Or do we just go back to the city and it's the zoning commission that would say disband part of the PUD? The zoning administrator and the Office of Planning weigh in on it, but they don't make the final decision. I'm just trying to understand all of this, since there's a whole lot of moving parts here that.
Yeah. Shane,
Sure.
maybe I should, do you mind if I jump in and answer? This is Dave Apple,
Sure.
who's land use counsel as well.
Yeah.
I've been listening in. I think that the idea here is to avoid exactly that situation. What the modification we're proposing will do is it sort of preserves and carries forward all of the protections of the PUD in terms of the design commitments, the setbacks, the lot occupancy. It's a commitment to nothing any bigger than what's been previously approved, and in fact could very well be smaller, and a commitment to maintain all of the public benefits. And what the flexibility will do is gives us the same degree of flexibility we would have as if the site had just been rezoned, and we could just go out into the market and respond to what the market suggests is the right sort of use in this space. That's what we're trying. That's what this solution is trying to solve for. Is exactly the concern you're articulating, and it's a little bit of a, hopefully a Goldilocks solution, in that it's got a lot of the structure of the PUD, and it retains the overall concepts and the master planning behind the PUD that sort of link this all together, but balances that with the flexibility that's necessary when the anticipated use that had been planned for this parcel for the better part of a decade just doesn't work anymore, and we now need to go out and find something else. This gives us that sort of degree of certainty we need to go out there and get someone who then says, okay, good, I know I can build that office building or that hotel use or that residential building here. I know what the parameters are I need to live with. We know what the protections will be. And now we can go forward. So we're trying to avoid having to come back yet again by giving just the right amount of flexibility, but maintaining the right protections. And I apologize that my camera isn't on. I guess it's just the way I was promoted, but hopefully that made sense.
So then my final comment, then I'll stop because I could probably ask 40,000 questions here, is I would assume that you guys have done a little bit of market research to have at least a tidbit of idea of what is going to make this flexibility work, i.e. a hotel or whatever. And is there in your mind, when you submit to the zoning commission your report, are you going to lay out a little bit more detail on that as far as what you hope this PUD change will effectively market the space to, or are you just hoping that this change is going to precipitate what David just said?
Yeah, it's more the latter. It's more the flexibility to go fishing in all of the ponds possible. And right now, none of those ponds are necessarily stocked. And they're all very sensitive to macroeconomic indicators and activities and what's going on. That, I don't sit here today harboring a knowledge that I'm going to get all of this flexibility, but I'm going to build X. We just don't have that right now, and all the market research in the world isn't going to get us there, because of the dynamics behind all of those possible sectors of the industry. So we are trying to set ourselves up so that we can pounce when something is viable and feasible from an economic standpoint and would, fit the bill for this northern end of Reservoir District.
Okay, that makes sense.
Thank you.
Huh. Anything else from the committee or the public? Okay, hearing none, seeing none. Thank you, gentlemen, for participating and presenting, and we'll see you back here late August, September, October sometime.
All right. Well, thank you again for your time and attention and consideration. Much appreciated.
Great.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Yeah.
Alrighty, and I will demote from panelist. Okay, and they all jumped off. All right, moving on to the next item. Can the folks, Asalua, I'm assuming I pronounced that right. Please correct me if I'm wrong. And is Haley, are they also from
Hi, good evening. I'm Shola.
Sola?
Yeah. My whole name is listed there as Olu Shola, but informally Shola.
So Shola, nice
Yeah.
to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
Alrighty. Do you have a presentation for us? I think Shane, I need to.
I do. I also have the owner of the property here as well, Ms. Asnak Haley, and her husband. She may choose to say something, but I do have a presentation.
Okay. You can share your screen now
All right. Um,
if that allows you.
yeah, I don't see the share
All right, let me
option.
just
Oh,
try.
there we go.
Okay. You muted, so I don't know if you.
There we go. Okay. All right. All right.
All right.
There we go. Let me, oops, there we go.
Okay.
All right, so I'm here just to present again this BZA application number 21405. I'm the authorized agent for the owner, Ms. Asma Kylie. The address is 3207 6th Street Northwest, square 3046, lot 808 in the R1 zone. So the purpose is to subdivide an alley tax lot into two alley record lots, creating a new two-story plus basement, single family or principal road dwelling on each lot. Um, these are some pictures, just so you can see. I have a lot of slides, so I'm going to try to move through it quickly. But just so you get a general area of where this is. And the relief that is requested were for two special exceptions and two area variances. One is a residential use on an alley lot, a new alley lot without the lot frontage requirements. It's supposed to be 25 feet. New alley lot with the minimum of alley width requirements. It's supposed to be at least 25 feet, and the alley lot minimum side yard requirements. So these were on the left is our initial BZA memo. At first, when I first presented this to ANC 1E and all the commissioners, that we were requesting three area variances and one special exception. However, that has been updated as of today to one area variance and two special exceptions. From that meeting in January, we did receive ANC recommendation for approval of all the four of the requests that we initially did, but we have not had the chance until now to be able to present before you again. So my next few slides are just going to talk a little bit more about this case. And just to clarify, this has already been heard before the BZA. So they have closed the case, but hoping just for an updated memo from ANC 1E, a new report. So some of the application exhibits, all of this is within the case record for 21405. So I'm not pulling any new documents. So it's all there. However, I'm willing to provide anybody a copy of this slideshow if you need it. So this is
Did you
what
say
we,
that
oh,
the BZA has already approved this?
they haven't approved it because and that was my offer to them as well because I wanted to respect the ANC's process as well since you had not been presented the updated design that it was important for them as well. I can't, I would like to say, being optimistic that the way the hearing closed, that BZA most likely will be able to approve it if ANC also supports it. And later on in the slides, I can show you our approval letters or our letters of recommendation from other disciplines like Office of Planning, FEMS.
Okay, so can you just quickly, just so I understand, you had a hearing in front
Yes.
of BZA and they discussed what you had proposed, but they didn't say positive, they didn't take a vote at all. They just listened to what you said and then said, go back to the ANC and see what the ANC says.
Correct. They did. They closed it. So we have another following public hearing coming up on July the 1st. And so I guess they're going to actually give their official vote on that date based on the ANC report.
Okay. And I probably already know the answer. Who was the chair at that point? Was that
That is a
For this
great
committee?
question. That is a great question of who was the chair during it was a woman, but I don't remember her last name. It sounded French,
was the
but
chair of
yeah,
the BZA board you're talking about now?
correct. The BZA board,
It was
yes.
not Fred Hill.
No, no.
Okay. So that was after he left. Okay. Sorry to interrupt. I just want to
No,
make sure
no
I
worries.
understand what it is where you are with this whole thing.
Yes, no problem. Look, I welcome all questions. But definitely this was what we presented to ANC prior, which were two single family dwellings, but as you can see, they're not row dwellings. They're not from lot width to lot width, which is what DOB would consider a row dwelling. So this is
Okay, so
our
then these now, since they're in the process of getting BZA, this is now falling under the new rules and regulations for alley dwellings with the setbacks and all that, right?
correct. However, this is the old design. This is the new design. Oops. Yes, this is the old design. This is the new. Ooh, I'm skipping past too far. Let me see if I can escape really quick so I can go back to the newer design. This is the new design. So if you can see it, it's a lot wider. The row homes go from lot width all the way to lot width. So this
Okay.
is the new design.
And what is the width? It looks like they're not the same. What is the width of the buildings?
The width for the northern lot, I believe, is 22 feet, and
Okay,
the width of the southern lot is 28 feet.
okay, okay. And then I'm assuming, based on this drawing, that you have some kind of sidewalk or setback, or however you design that on
Correct.
in front.
Yeah. We did actually, that's a great question because we did discuss this with Office of Planning and with DDOT. There is an existing sidewalk. The property adjacent to the northern lot, 3213 6th Street,
Right.
has a small sidewalk, and they want us to make sure that we tie in to that sidewalk. And of course, we're like, look, we still have to submit for permitting as well. So of course, we're going to get probably comments back from zoning, and structural, but we are going to make sure that it ties into the existing sidewalk.
Okay, so then the public alley on the other side, you're going right to the lot line.
Correct.
Okay. And you don't foresee an issue with them saying there's no walkway there? The reason I'm asking
I
that question is that I'm basing this on other projects that I've seen come with alley lots where they they want to have a little bit of a setback on both sides of the building, even though there's the minimum. You're asking for a variance on some of this stuff. You've got it in the front where 6th Street comes down. That's and a
Correct.
public alley, so you've got something, but it doesn't look like you're doing anything on the other part of the alley. So the
We
building is going to
aren't.
be right up against the alley line, correct?
Correct, correct. But we're not opposed to it. It would, I guess, be more, I guess, give it a more neighborhood feel so that you could walk all the way around. We just stuck with the row homes, just with how the alley lot regulations read at the time.
So I'm just going to make a comment. I know I'm talking, that's just me, but
It's hard.
comment to help you understand some logistics here is that the way you've got this constructed, if you're building right to the end of the alley line, you're going to have an issue with turning radius at the bottom of the alley to the other alley. And then you're also going to have an issue with turning from the alley, the south side of the bottom of this page to into the alley that is going up. Well, can you tell me, based on the drawing, what is the width of the alley on the side where the cars are parked there?
This is 15 feet.
Okay, so that's a wide alley. And then the one that's off at 6th Street is what, a 10
It's
foot?
10 feet, yes.
So just be aware of the turning radius that you have, and it creates a problem with people turning and the possibility of them hitting the building. And I say that from experience. We've had that issue. On my block, there was 2 row houses or 2 alley buildings that were built at the bottom of the alley. And we literally had to get DPW to change the trash trucks to smaller trucks because they were banging into the side of the building.
Wow.
So keep that in mind. And then the other issue that I see based on this drawing here is where you have, I'm assuming these are 2 parking spaces.
Correct. And they are not, I would say, they're not, unchangeable. Unchangeable.
Right. So
Considering,
here's the
yeah.
point that I want to make on that. Under the DC zoning regulations now, since you're not creating, and I don't know what your plan is, but I'm just
Mhm.
pointing this out. You're not creating a garage. You're probably going to want to put in a rolling gate or whatever the heck it's called.
Yeah.
Under the current regulations, you're allowed to put the rolling gate right up to the alley. That's going to cause you another problem because whoever is trying to pull in and out of those spaces, their turning radius is also diminished again because they're trying to turn out of a parking spot onto a 15-foot alley, and whatever is behind them, well, depending on what kind of vehicle they have, creates a real problem. And I'm just basing this on my own personal experience in buildings that were done on my own block where they put the rolling things in, and my personal property has a garage that has trying to think the right word, a area in front of my garage to the alley. So it's like a carport, I guess. I don't know what the technical word is. They built a building across the street from me and put 2 new buildings in with rolling guards. And every time the guy pulls out, he pulls into onto
Parkers. Oh,
my
yeah.
property
Hmm.
because he doesn't have the turning radius. And I've gone out and said something to him on a number of occasions, and he's just a jerk. So I've tried everything I can to stop him from doing it. But the property that was built next to that, before they even did it, when they came through the process that you're coming through now, I made them understand that they needed. So they set theirs back onto their property, which then has created an easier turning radius for those people pulling into those spots. So just keep that in your head if you're really going to use that as parking spaces.
Will do. That's a great point. I was hoping further up this alley on towards I would say the other alley entrance that leads out to Lamont Street.
Mhm.
There are some parking spaces in the rear there, but it is a lot wider. So I definitely hear what you're saying. Maybe we may reconfigure the parking. Especially we could move them up, the stairs are just for easier access to like a deck or a lower entrance, but it's not completely necessary.
Right. The ones that they did on my alley, just so you know, that they built two separate buildings, one on one side of the alley, one on the other side, and it's a single family house. It's a beautiful, big two-story building that's got, I mean, they did a really nice job, but they put garages in. They
Got
used
you.
half of the lower space to put a parking space in. So
Yes. Well, that's definitely something that, yes, I can speak with the owners if that's something to consider is putting like a garage back here that can be accessible by both homes in case, of course, if they're not under same ownership, then I
right.
think that would be
Yeah.
great. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't want to.
No worries. These are just like more interior, just to show spatial, how the interior layout would be. This would be the basement level on the left-hand side. So a full bathroom, two bedrooms, utility closet. On the first floor, you would have your kitchen, your dining room, living room, fitness room, half bath. And on the second floor, you would have some additional bedrooms and office space. Of course, this layout also may change, but this was something to at least provide context for how the single family dwellings would be configured or could be configured. This would be kind of like the elevations. Right now, we stuck with the current zoning alley lot regulations, which are a maximum of 20 feet. I do know that there's some changes that are being presented to the zoning commission now that will allow them to extend to 25 feet, but we did not include that in our design.
Yeah, I think that's probably already, it might be applicable to you once you get to that point, because I think they've already had a hearing on it.
Oh,
Correct?
wow. Yes, I do know that they had a hearing. I just didn't know if it was actually like
Yeah,
written into the zoning code yet.
yeah, it probably would apply, but I'm not an expert in how that works. So you'd have to find out.
Will do, will do. These are just more configurations of the south lot and the north lot, the width, the square footage, the lot occupancy, um, all of that information. It definitely shows at the top the change in the BZA memos that the variance that we were required prior to state that it had to be on a 3,000 square foot lot. Since we changed them to row homes, that relief was no longer required. This is just more, of course, with a variance, we have to adhere to certain things. We have to make sure that the property, there is an exceptional condition of the property, there's practical difficulty, and then there's no substantial detriment to the public good or zoning plan. So basically, this was us explaining it in written form. One thing that Office of Planning brought up that wasn't included in the record, but they brought up during the hearing that within the ANC 1E jurisdiction, there are 26 alley lots. And out of those 26, well, estimated 26 alley lots, out of those 26, this is the only lot that has such large dimensions. Because as a matter of right, we could just go ahead and build one single family, but it would have to be a row home. And in that area, like if you can imagine almost 50-foot frontage of a row home, it wouldn't really mix with the character of the neighborhood. It would look very, very out of place. And then, of course, we just go through, what were other exceptional conditions of the property? What was our practical difficulty with basically honing in on the fact that the alley widths are not the owner's fault. And that's something that she can't change. Years ago, she actually wanted to go to the city, to DPW, to DDOT, whoever she could, to be like, I'm willing to give a portion of this lot to the city to make this alley wider. But just the confusion on how to even get that done, like giving a portion of the lot back to the city.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, yeah, it was a lot. So basically, if we weren't able to do anything, we would have one single family home that is completely just, a sore thumb in this neighborhood, or otherwise, this lot is kind of just like permanently undevelopable because of the lot widths. Of course, the special exception for the side yard requirement, and you brought up a good point that maybe we could request another side yard relief for the opposite side on the southern side to set the property back a little bit more. And then the other special exception was for residential use, which was basically we just had to make sure that it is in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the existing zone, and there's no adverse effect on neighboring properties. This is more just jargon. Of course, all of this is still included in the BZA record, but I can give anybody a copy of this plan. Contemporary comparative intensity analysis, like I really tried to dig in deep on what the zoning code was and what the proposed changes were for alley lots and what the owner is proposing. Kind of it aligns with the direction in which the board wants to go in. So I also included in the reports from the other agencies. So I didn't include the entire report because it's about 12 pages, but the main two pages of each report. So the Office of Planning, they recommended approval for both the area variance and for the special exception and their reasoning for why. And I guess, yeah, they told everything about it, the adjacent properties and neighborhood character, the proposed development, and why they considered this to be a recommendation, that it would be a good idea to move forward with this. The same for DDOT. This was their recommendation for approval as well. We will have to work with DDOT more. Of course, the things that they wanted to bring up in email was for vehicle parking. They did bring up this as well. Alley access. They just want us to provide an off-street parking space. If we reconfigure that, we would still make them happy, but definitely those were the things that they want in with streetscape and public realm. And then with fire and EMS, they also recommended approval for this, but they, of course, also told us that there are other requirements that they would want us to deal with during the building permit process. So we did have, with community input, a good amount of support. And to be completely transparent and everything, we did have one letter of opposition. So I am including the letter in support from one of the neighbors. She wrote, a pretty well put together email or a letter to the submission that it has already raised concerns with this lot being vacant for so long because people just park there, a lot of times when it's just land that's underdeveloped, people sometimes can use it just for like trash, but I think she wrote a really nice letter in support. We also went over myself, the owner of the property, her husband, and we walked the neighborhood and we talked to many of her neighbors, a lot of the residences, told them what we were doing, and gave them, that they can go in and search for it. And we got names, numbers, all of these people who were in support. There are, of course, some people who wanted to talk about it later or wanted to hear, after we got the BZA case hearing, just, or at least anything, they wanted to see what was going to happen first. But majority of the neighborhood, I would say, was in support. But of course, to be completely transparent, we did get one letter of opposition from one of the neighbors. I discussed this at length with BZA as well. We brought up each individual concern that this neighbor had, and, how we aimed to rectify this or at least put him at ease. He did send this letter in opposition on the original BZA memo. Since the update to the BZA memo, we had not received any other letters in opposition or anyone pushing back on the application. So we had our public hearing. This is kind of like the procedural timeline because we started this process back in September. However, we know that our first hearing was scheduled for March the 18th, and then that is right around the time where there was a lack of a quorum with BZA. So we got rescheduled to April 29th, and then we got rescheduled again to June the 3rd. So finally, we were able to speak to them on June 3rd and present our case to them. But of course, to be very respectful of the ANC process, that I'm not trying to skip any steps. So they wanted us to get an updated ANC report, and this is the actual BZA memo. So it doesn't really say approved, denied. It just says the record is closed. We'll have, hearing procedures and the actual hearing where I assume that they're going to take an official vote on this on July the 1st. And that is the end of my presentation. But if you have any other questions, I can answer them to the best of my abilities.
I think I've given you enough information, but I could probably give you more things to think about, but
Well, it's definitely well accepted. And like I said before, the homeowner is on the call. I'm not sure if she raised her hand, but Miss Asnak Haley or her husband, Mr. Muhammad, they may want to speak or say something.
I don't see any hands up.
if
Okay.
this is approved, which it probably will be,
Oh, there's a hand. Now I see a
what
hand.
is your
Okay.
timeline for when you think you're going to start?
To start the actual work, it's probably going to be a while because even after we get approval from BZA, we're going to have to go through the building permit process with
Right?
DOB, which could probably take at least about 2 to 3 months if we're
Right.
lucky. Yeah. And then construction would probably start after that. So I think right now, once we are confirmed that we are okay to move forward, if we're granted BZA approval, that'll be probably the time that we start getting quotes and estimates from contractors and really speaking in depth with DDOT and FEMS and Office of Planning, of course, because they definitely want us to make sure that the facade is perfect with the neighborhood. If we're doing any type of architectural features, cornices, porch railings, they want to know all that stuff. So it'll be at least I would say about um 6 months to a year before construction is able to take place.
Well, I'm gonna I'm gonna just make a suggestion as a member of the community and also as somebody who's dealt with some of this stuff before, that once you get um through this process and you get this approved, then you start doing all your planning. Excuse me for a second.
No worries.
Um, that you make sure that you keep contact with the abutting neighbors and people that are along the alleyway. Because once you start construction, that'll be the first thing you start hearing bitching about is the fact that trucks are blocking the alley or blah, 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 blah. And then I would assume we're also going to have issues with running electric and sewer lines, and which means you'll have to dig up the alley. And just be aware that that's going to be a hot topic issue. And the more transparent you are with letting people know what's going on, the better chance you have of less headache once you start doing the work.
Completely understood, and I agree wholeheartedly.
Mrs. Haley, do you
Hello, hi.
oh, I think we got a few people there. Do you want to come on camera or?
Yes, please.
There we go. That should do it.
And I can stop sharing.
I'm in the dark now.
Hello, how you doing? How are you?
Good. How's it going?
My name, my name is Mohammed, and my wife is Azana Chaili. We are the owner of this lot, and we've been trying to develop this lot for some time. Finally, we are in process of it. Hopefully, we'll get these things done. I just want to say one thing that we, as Shola mentioned, we went door by door, the neighbors in the area that we know for some time there, and we talked to them about the lot and what we're planning to do in it, and we got at least 50 developing the lot and the original plan that was put into the BZA. And we kind of, in this time, recommendation of the city, the planning and the zoning, hopefully they want us to have the final say by the ANC, and we are here just to get your support and have the petition in front of you. Hopefully we'll go from there.
Great.
Well, you guys need to be congratulated on taking the time to go out and touch and walk to neighbors. That's always been an issue that the ANC has brought up, that lack of community outreach. So kudos to you for going and knocking on doors and getting signatures. That's a real benefit to us figuring out whether we're going to support you or not, and whether or not the BZA sees that you're doing your duty as a owner to reach out to abutting neighbors. Don't see that very often, so
Thank you very much.
congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for stopping by. Thank you for coming. Tony, you have a question?
Yeah, I've known these participants for many years.
How you doing, Tony? How are you?
Yeah, and your wife.
We're a servant for the community for the last 25 years.
Yeah, I've known you for at least 10 years or 15 years.
15 years.
Yeah, so I've known their community outreach for years. And when I was chairman of 1B, they were very active and very supportive of the community and ANC. So thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Say
Yep.
hi. Palestine is growing up. She graduates.
Oh, she's pretty large.
This year she graduates.
Oh, is that right?
Yes, she's
She
great
was
to
a
her.
little girl.
Yeah.
6 years old or something. In the
Yeah, she's
restaurant.
now. Yeah.
Very pleased, very happy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else? And then we'll take our vote.
So Dmitri, just a technical question. Do we still technically under ANC
Have a
guidelines
quorum.
quorum?
I think we had a quorum to start, and so Jacobson would be absent the vote, but not absent the committee. So I don't know if he would technically have a quorum to
I don't know what the
pass.
ANC SOPs say, whether or not, I mean, I know what 1B has, but I
What-
don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't, because our quorum here is, oh no, I have to go into my old folder with the names. Is 3 enough? I think we need 4, but
Well, we could still make a recommendation and then the ANC could still vote on it. It may not become official because we don't have a quorum to.
okay, yeah. Oh, we can do a unanimous consent of the attending members and see if.
I'm willing to make a motion that we recommend to the ANC that they support this.
Okay,
I second.
one motion, second. All those opposed? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye.
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 All right.
All right. The ayes have it. Thank
Thank-
you. We're
thank you.
excited to.
Yes, thank you so much. We really appreciate you.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you, Shura.
you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Say thank
Change
you.
route to attendance. Change route to attendance. All right. I think that is the rest of the agenda here. For my little authorization, we will have approved the BZA case resolution. The announcement.
We're not
Uh,
approving, we're just supporting.
yeah, or sorry, yeah, you're right. We're
I
supporting
wish we had the power to approve.
the BCA case resolution to the ANC, to the full ANC. Alrighty. Next public meeting of this committee will be Wednesday, July 8th, 2026 at 7 p.m., same time virtually. The next general meeting of the ANC 1E will be Wednesday, June 24th, 2026 at 7 p.m., where this resolution would be put forward and voted on. Or the previous resolution or support resolution will be voted on. Can I have a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting?
So moved.
So moved. Hearing no objection, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you all. Again, a pleasure working with you over these years. I wish you all the best, and yeah, I'll be there to talk about this on
And
Wednesday, June 24th.
thank you for your service.
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah.
It's been fun. It's been
Yeah.
I still don't get all the quorum things, but Well, thank you guys. Have a good rest of your week.
Night.
Bye.